Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Rohingya children victims of trafficking in Bangladesh refugee camps. Nepal's national pride infrastructure projects violate indigenous rights. Indonesian corruptions watchdog makes arrest in court corruption case. Indian government agrees to farmer demands. Philippines withdrawal from ICC will affect international credibility. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Alexandra. This week, Just Asia begins with Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh, where young girls are being trafficked into prostitution. A BBC News investigation team went to Cox's Bazaar, Bangladesh, for an undercover investigation, and found that foreigners seeking sex can easily gain access to children who have fled conflict in Burma. Rohingya women and children are lured out of the chaos of refugee camps by promises of a better life. Having lost their families in the violence, many had nothing else to turn to. The BBC team found Rohingya children taken to Chittagong and Dhaka in Bangladesh, Kathmandu in Nepal, and Kolkata in India. They learned that the internet provides tools to both communicate between different members of organized crime groups and sell sex. At the cybercrime unit in Dhaka, police explained how traffickers trade girls for sex over the internet. Open and closed Facebook groups offer a gateway to a child sex industry out of sight. The Rohingya refugee crisis has increased the supply of women and children, encouraging demand and forcing the price of prostitution down. Next, Nepal is seeing protests against its Kathmandu-Terai Fast Track Project. The 76 km long fast track is proposed along the Bagmati River corridor and is expected to cut the travel distance from the capital Kathmandu to the southern Terai by 159 km. The travel time will also be cut by an hour. Beginning at Lalitpur, the end of the new expressway will be at Nijgadh, where the country's second international airport is also being planned. While the government and the Nijgadh residents are pushing for quick work on the expressway, the indigenous Newar communities in Lalitpur are concerned about violations of their property, land and cultural rights due to the project. Despite complaints submitted to the Ministry of Home Affairs and the National Human Rights Commission in 2016, there have been no response, and instead, the army has now come to the area to begin field assessment. The Newar communities have been demanding that the fast track be constructed along the west bank of the river to avoid any impact on their agricultural lands and closely knit communities. Instead, the government has changed the alignment of the fast track to be along the east bank of the river, which will still impact the lands of more than 200 families, including religious and communal lands. Besides the fast track, there are several other planned infrastructure projects that will affect the Newar communities. According to community representatives, together, the projects will serve to displace the Newar community of the area entirely. The community is not demanding compensation, but the preservation of the land and heritage. Indonesia's corruption watchdog arrested several court officials for bribery in a civil case early last week. Justice Wahyu Widya Nurfitri of the Tangerang District Court, Court Clerk Tuti Atika, and lawyers Agus Wiratno and H.M. Saipuddin were arrested by the Corruption Eradication Commission on March 12. The lawyers were charged with bribing judges with IDR 30 millions. According to the Commission's Deputy Chairman Basaria Panjaitan, the two lawyers wanted to change the judge's ruling in the case. Prior to the trial, lawyer Wiratno had been informed by the clerk Tuti Ateka that the judge's decision was to reject the lawsuit. Corruption within court institutions is a prevalent problem in Indonesia. Since 2012, 70 judges and 9 court clerks have been arrested and sentenced by the Anti-Corruption Court. Both Indonesia's Supreme Court and its Judicial Commission have failed to develop any effective oversight mechanism to deal with such cases. Although in 2017, the Judicial Commission submitted recommendations to punish 58 judges, the Supreme Court has yet to implement their recommendations, resulting in the recurrence of similar cases. Transparent and credible internal audits must be carried out to deter institutional corruption. At the same time, stringent punishment measures should be developed and implemented. Lastly, there should be a clear division of labor between the Supreme Court and the Judicial Commission. Moving to India, more than 50,000 farmers and tribal cultivators marched for 167 km to reach Mumbai from Nashik, a city in Maharashtra, on March 6, organized by a Communist Party-affiliated farmers group. The march was to protest against the faulty implementation of the state government's loan waiver, demand better prices for the produce, and land ownership rights. India has been marred with a devastating agrarian crisis for decades, which has claimed more than 3 million farmers' lives through suicide. Successive governments have done little to address the crisis. However, as the farmers do not make up a solid electoral presence, known as a vote bank in India, the country's farmers are divided by various identities across castes, community, and religious lines. The massive protest early this month was coupled with an outpouring of public support for the distraught farmers, which seems to have forced the state government to swing into action this time. With general elections coming up, the government has agreed to all the farmers' demands in writing, though the implementation of the same is yet to be seen. Philippines President Duterte last week notified the United Nations Secretary-General of his decision to withdraw from the ICC because of what the outspoken Philippine leader called outrageous attacks by UN officials and violation of due process. This occurred after the ICC prosecutor last month opened a preliminary examination into the president's war on drugs, which has led to the death of thousands since it began in July 2016. Moreover, about 4,000 Filipinos have been killed by police in the past 19 months in a brutal crackdown. According to law professor Barry Gutierrez, Philippines' international standing will be hit if Duterte goes ahead with the withdrawal. In international law, there's really no regular standing court that you can bring grievance to if a state doesn't honor its promises. There's only the word of the states. Once that is questioned, the other nations might have doubt whether they should enter into an agreement with us, he said. Gutierrez further noted that this could affect foreign investment and the economy as well. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on this and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.